So Dr. Geffner, again, with regard to Dr. Horn's report,
Yes.
okay, based on his own report, do we see that even Dr. Horn said there is no apparent injury to the brain?
Yes, that's one of the statements he made.
All right. When we talk about this dura mater,
Yes.
okay, so this membrane that surrounds our brains, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Does Dr. Horn talk about the dura mater?
Yes.
And what does he say about the dura mater?
He said it was intact.
What does that mean to you?
It means that this membrane around the brain here was not penetrated or damaged in general.
And is there any possible way that you can see a projectile piercing the brain without piercing the dura mater?
Not to my knowledge.
And so is the dura mater such that it surrounds our brains, that if something's going to get into our brain, it has to pierce through the dura mater first?
And the other two membranes there as well.
Okay. But Dr. Horn's own report notes that the dura mater was intact. Is that right?
Correct.
Assuming for a second that that's a mistake and the dura mater was not intact and he made a mistake, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
If Dr. Horn told this jury that he believed it would be immediately incapacitating, meaning that the person would not be able to purposely lift their arm or move their leg, would you agree with that based on what you know about the brain?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Approach. So let me try that one again. If Dr. Horn were to tell this jury that because a bullet somehow made it past the dura without piercing it and leaving it intact and made it through the brain and out into the left cheek, the frontal lobe, if he told this jury that that would have caused immediate incapacitation where the person could not move, would you agree with that based on what you know about the brain?
Not unless it produced some type of huge explosion or something in the brain that would affect all these other areas in the motor strip. It could disorient the person, it could cause some other things, but there is substantial documentation in the research about frontal lobe injuries, some even more severe than that, that do not cause incapacitation.
What kind of research are you referring to?
There's been research in both, especially in the neuropathology area, in the journals that deal with medicine and legal and neuropsych, that have studied going back into the 1990s the effects of projectile wounds like gunshots on different parts of the brain. There have been actual journal articles on what types of things lead to incapacitation, what do not, and numerous case studies reported where somebody either shot themselves or were shot by somebody else, and then how they acted afterwards. So that's been documented going back 20 years.
Okay. And based on that research, do you have an understanding then with a frontal lobe injury, what, if the projectile, you talked about if there was a big explosion. So what's your understanding what would qualify as a big explosion?
A bullet like a hollow point or something like that that shatters, or some other kind of things that actually literally shatters and goes everywhere, or somehow blows up the brain, explodes inside the brain, something like that could cause widespread damage. But a bullet that goes through, even if it did go through, say, the frontal area here and out the other side, it would likely cause some things happening, but nothing in that part of the brain would incapacitate a person. That's not the area of the brain that does that. So there's no evidence from a report that that would cause that effect unless something else happened that we don't know about.
One additional question. Your report stated there was no damage to the dura mater membrane. Can you explain how the brain can be damaged without damaging the membrane?
Let me review my report. The only thing I can say is that that's a typographical error. That's part of our usual protocol with the report. So clearly the dura mater had to have been perforated. So that would be a typographical error in my report.
All right. Any other questions from the jury? Follow-up, Mr. Martinez.
With regard to that issue of the perforation of that particular part of the anatomy, so as you look at it, and your recollection based on what you saw, was there that perforation?
Yes, there would have to have been, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
There would have to have been, yes.
When you say there would have to have been, why is that?
Because of the location of the tracks and the fact that the dura sits right on where that bone would have been fractured and blown apart, so it would have had to have perforated the dura in that location.
I don't have any other questions.
Ms. Wilmot?
Dr. Horn, you're aware that this is a capital case, right?
Yes.
You know how serious it is.
Objection, relevance.
Do you understand that this is a serious case?
Yes.
Objection, relevance.
You would have reviewed your report prior to coming to testify, right?
Yes.
And you would have reviewed your report probably long before that again, also, right?
Yes, before testimony.
And you were interviewed in this case by defense counsel, weren't you?
Yes.
And wouldn't you have reviewed your report prior to being interviewed by defense counsel?
Usually, yes.
And in all those times that you were reviewing your reports, you never found any error with regard to the durameter, did you?
I did not note that until just now.
Okay, and in fact, did I not just ask you 5 minutes ago if the rest of your report was correct, right?
To the best of my knowledge, it was, yes.
And you answered yes.
Yes.
But in fact, now you're telling us in order to fit with the idea that this bullet had to have passed through the brain, you're telling us that your report's incorrect now. Is that right?
There's a typographical error, yes. That's exactly what it is.
You made a mistake, didn't you?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling us?
Yes.
And you're sure that the mistake isn't the fact that the bullet just didn't go through the brain?
It had to have injured the brain, yes.
So then you're just wrong in your report and it's incorrect?
It's a typographical error, yes.
Nothing further.